My name is Denise Baki. My topic sentence tungiasis complications. Definitions. Tungiasis is an endozoonosis that causes a transient ectoparasitosis in human beings throughout skin penetrations of the pregnant female. Tunga penetrans. It is endemic in beaches and rural areas of Central and South America, the Caribbean, and Sub-Saharan Africa.
My video blog. As I was scouring my archive, I came across this photo from 2018. That white, slimy looking sac is actually a tiny little parasitic flea that was dug out of my big toe. It is called the Tunga penetrans. It has various common names throughout its geographic distribution, like the pico or the nigua, the chigger flea, sand flea, and in Yanomami it is called the nihuuna. Native to the tropical Americas, it has made its way to other parts of the world due in part to the transatlantic slave trade, so it is commonly found in sub-Saharan Africa. They have quite the lifestyle, and I find it amazing. So today I'm going to talk a little bit about their pathological manifestation known as tungiasis and my personal encounter with the Tunga penetrans. Stage 1. The adult female is hungry and ready to make some baby fleas. So it attaches itself to the skin and begins burrowing into the epidermal layers. After about a half hour or so, it begins making a permanent residence there, and the only visible structure you can see is its rear end along with its reproductive organs. It is here where the male attaches itself and copulates, and then soon after, it dies. Generally, you don't feel the flea penetrating the skin, but some do say that they feel an itchiness or a small bite. But in the Amazon, I was getting bitten by thousands of mosquitoes and gnats and some ticks, so I wasn't really taking much notice to the bite of a tiny flea. I believe I was a little bit more susceptible to the knee growth because I have soft baby feet from years and years of wearing shoes and socks. The Yanomami, on the other hand, have jungle-hardened soles with layers of thick, tough calluses, and I think this helps protect them from invading creatures. Funny, I'm often asked how do I prepare or train to go to the Amazon. And one part of it is that I go running barefoot to try to help toughen my feet a little bit, but to no avail because every time I go down there, they are victimized by these needles. Now we're at stage 2. The female flea has nestled itself in and is now gorging on your blood. And as it takes in the blood, its abdomen gets bigger and bigger. And at this point, you often feel the pressure as a result of the enlarged abdomen. You start feeling a little bit more itchy, maybe start seeing some inflammation. You know that gratifying feeling when you have an itch and you just can't quite reach it, so you have someone else take care of it for you, or maybe you find a tree that helped scratch that itch. Yeah, it was like that feeling. But again, I was just constantly being attacked by mosquitoes and gnats, so I don't remember feeling any pleasant itchiness. Stage 3. At this point, the flea has grown from 1 millimeter in size to about 1 centimeter in size. And volume-wise, it has increased its size by a factor of 2,000. It's feeding, it's pooping, it's feeding, it's pooping, all the while releasing its eggs into the environment so that its progeny can go ahead and continue its life cycle. At this stage, one often feels intense itchiness or pain from the swelling and inflammation. When I was infected with tungiasis in 2018, I remember experiencing this weird, kind of like creepy feeling where some alien object is inside you growing and moving and writhing about. I estimated that my tungiasis was at stage 3 when I just simply couldn't handle it anymore, so I called upon one of my nephews to come dig it out. Come take a look. When I was researching the treatment of tungiasis, a common thing I came across was that one should not damage the flea or severe inflammation will ensue. Well, you can see from this video clip that we obliterated that flea. My first thought after they dug it out was, crap, I am going to get an infection. Because in the jungle, every cut, every scrape gets infected. I don't have the same kind of microbial protection against infections like the Yanomami do. Well, sure enough, severe inflammation did ensue, and I was in so much pain. It got to the point where it was very, very difficult to walk. You know when you hurt a toe or a finger, and then for some reason, when it's injured or when it's healing, you somehow always stub that particular toe or finger? Well, the same thing happens in the Amazon. When I ventured out into the forest, it seemed like I was always stubbing my toe against a tree or getting it caught in a vine. And I remember I was in so much pain and filled with so much anger that I would let out loose a stream of expletives. And then after I was done, I glanced over my family and they just erupted in laughter. And that made me laugh. And then, so the comic relief was kind of my anesthetic. So I just sucked it up and kept moving. And, walking is everything for the Yanomami people. I mean, they're called the foot people. Everything that you need to do, task, involves walking, going to the garden. Hunting.
Applications in nursing. Instruct the community on periodic self-examination and early removal of fleas. Educate the community about this disease. Perform the respective cleaning of the wound.
Hi everyone, I'm Dr. Jared Gardner, and if you are one of my residents, you already know that. And if you're watching this on YouTube, well, you may already know that also. But we're going to do some cases today, just some random derm path fun for Friday afternoon. So here's case one. What have we here? Wow, that's a beaut. Anyone recognize that? Scabies is a thought. Myiasis is a thought. And tungiasis is a thought. Good. Well, you guys all recognize 3 arthropod organisms that would potentially live in this part of the skin. Scabies would be in the corneal layer. Myiasis is down in the dermis as kind of a nodule, and that's botfly basically. And Dr. Moore said this is something she would not want on her, and I agree completely. I'd like to have no arthropods burrowed in my skin, thank you. But boy, they sure are beautiful when we get to see them. So this is the only case I've ever seen of this, and I'll tell you a story behind it. I was a fellow, and someone put this case in my mailbox, and I to this day do not know who gave it to me. It was an old recut from like decades ago. And I never was able to find out who gave it to me. Someone recut one and put it with my name on it in a box. And so whoever you are, mystery pathologist out there, I love you dearly because you gave me the best tungiasis and the only tungiasis I've ever seen, because we don't really have this, to my knowledge, in the United States. If any of you know differently, let me know. But mainly this is basically something that is in Central and South America. Also, I think some in Africa and India. In this case, you can see here that to orient yourself, this is the normal epidermis here. And look, the epidermis goes down here underneath this thing. So this whole huge flea, it's basically a sand flea, Tunga penetrans, sand flea, Chigo flea is the other name, and jigger flea. I didn't make these names up. That's the different names for them colloquially, depending on where you're from in the world. They live in the sand and burrow into underneath the stratum corneum, and you can see over time the skin is basically, it's still mostly intact. There's a little ulceration here, tons of inflammation underneath, but this is technically outside of the skin. It's above the epidermis, but down below the corneal layer. So it's basically expanded as it's grown and made this burrow. Yuck, right? And basically the flea burrows under there and it leaves a little hole in the stratum corneum, and through that it can defecate and also lay eggs. Delightful, huh? And then eventually it dies, and then the flea goes away. So like other arthropods, the scabies mite would have this similar pattern, but it would be much smaller. And sometimes it's hard to conceptualize that until you realize this is a big piece of tissue down to the subcutis. And this thing is basically the size of a, it's about half the tissue it's taken up. A scabies mite would be about this size, about the size of the area I'm circling there. It would be a small little thing, but otherwise would look similar. Like all arthropods, basically, what you get is this chitinous shell around the outside. Sometimes the chitin has a pink color, other times it has this bright yellowish color, and it's kind of refractile. I can't really show you the refractileness because it's a scan slide. It's one of the trade-off scan slides. You can't really flip that condenser and get the refractal nature of things. But in any case, in any case, that's chitin sometimes has that yellow look. Other times I feel like it looks pink. And chitin is like a carbohydrate, basically. That's my understanding of it. I'm not a biochemist, but a carbohydrate that forms the firm outer exoskeleton of arthropods. And sometimes, let's see if it shows it here. I've seen it before, like on ticks, for example. Yeah. If you look close, you can see like these little spiky ridge pattern or kind of grooves. It depends on how it's cut. And then inside, you have some of these are probably internal organs. Some are probably eggs. I really have no idea. I'm not my microscopic anatomy knowledge stops at humans. I've always looked with wonder at all the little parts inside arthropods, but I really don't know what all of them are. So if you're out there and you're an expert on Tunga or arthropod microscopic anatomy and you're watching this on YouTube, I would love to learn. So please teach me what all these little circles and cool things are. But in any case, you need to recognize that this is chitinous exoskeleton material and that you're dealing with arthropod. That's the first step, because that can help you with, like you guys suggested, finding scabies, myiasis, bot fly, anytime there's going to be some arthropod organism. And we say arthropod because remember that encompasses insects and also arachnids and other things that might be in the skin. So this is the burrowed Tunga, the mama sand flea here, burrowed into its home in someone's unfortunate foot. And the dermis, as you can imagine, is none too happy with having this thing over top. Jillian eosinophils down in here. And for your viewing pleasure, I pulled up some images here from Wikimedia. And if you're watching this on YouTube, I'll put links down below so you can see the sources of these and you can go view them for yourself, and also to give credit to the originators of these photos. Here's an example of the flea in its burrow, and there's the little kind of punctum, the little hole that it's able to extrude its eggs through. Here's another example, and let's see if it'll let us go closer. Again, you can see that little hole in the center. And this is one that has been extracted out of its burrow, and that's actually the whole organism. I'm not sure, I guess that's the abdominal end. I'm not sure where the head is, but ooh, shudder, huh? That sounds terrible. And then here's a really terrible example where you can see there are numerous organisms, and from some of my reading, I've read that they do tend to cluster around the kind of area between the sole and dorsum, like the lateral edges of the foot. And here's one other view. So really quite terrible. This is obviously a very severe infestation with many organisms burrowed into this poor guy's foot. And so it's particularly, I think, common in areas where people have, I think are walking around a lot in bare feet and have high poverty rates. So really, really terrible. And like Dr. Moore said, it's almost kind of like how we have crusted scabies being a real extreme form of scabies. It's almost like crusted tungiasis. So that's good. So if no one's ever coined that before, it was coined here today by Dr. Kayla Moore on May 8th, 2020. And now we can document it in the video. So, all right. So Tunga penetrans, I've treasured that slide for a long time. And now this is the first time that I'm sharing it with all of you guys. I hope that you enjoyed it. Okay.
Pros. So far, no pros have been found for tungiasis. Signs it is degenerative. The size of the skin caused by a flea, also known as tunga, which, if the respective treatment is not carried out immediately, can necrosite the skin, and this would even cause amputation of the limbs. Cons: loss of digits, tetanus, potentially lethal bacterial infections. Epidemiology in Ecuador. Based on what was investigated in Ecuador, there is no known percentage of tungiasis since many of the health personnel are unaware of the disease and do not know how to treat it. Conclusions. Tungiasis, like most parasitic diseases, is undoubtedly associated with poverty. Its prevalence is higher in developing countries, especially in Latin America, predomination in the lower socioeconomic strata. Its eradication requires the conjunction of three fundamental axes: the knowledge of the pathology by health personnel, the development of an adequate educational program on the disease, and, as a fundamental point, the improvement of the socioeconomic level and the environmental environment of the class most needy.